How's it going, everyone? So today we're going to go over some Reddit pre-med questions. If you haven't used Reddit and you're pre-med, I definitely recommend getting on it. There's a lot of people in the pre-med subreddit who ask a lot of questions or post a lot of helpful advice, and it's definitely something I wish I had used while I was pre-med, and I started really only using while I was applying. So we're gonna go through some of the questions today. So first one up is an interview question. We have bags for interviews. What kind of bags would you recommend bringing to an interview? Do you get a lot of papers on interview day? I was considering a small briefcase or portfolio. Let me know your experience. So from my interviews that I went on, we did get stuff on interview day. Most schools are gonna give you like a folder that has any documents you need to know in it. This was pretty consistent across all my interviews, so I don't really think you need to bring like a big bag or a briefcase or anything. I've seen portfolios. I think that's something if you want to bring, you can. I personally have actually never brought a bag to an interview. I never really felt like I needed it. I kind of just used the folder that they gave me if I had to put extra stuff in there or write anything down. Usually they give you like pens as well. You can write things down. But yeah, I would just bring a portfolio unless you're traveling after. You should be fine with just that. So the next question we have is, what have y'all been doing to cope with the stress of the cycle? I know it's still early, but this process is mentally taxing and I'm starting to lose hope. Okay, so we're currently in the interview cycle right now. It is mid-November, so this is kind of a high stress time, especially if you're part of the early applicants. Maybe you applied in like the first day of July or early August. This is kind of the time that you would be hearing back from some of those early interviews, and if you haven't gotten interview invitations, this is definitely time you kind of start stressing. I personally think this is like the best part of the whole application cycle. I really enjoy interviews. I really have enjoyed this whole process, and I think that after doing all these hard classes and doing your primary application, your secondary applications, this is the least stressful time to me. I can see why it is stressful because you're waiting to hear back from schools, and I'm still waiting to hear back from schools as well, but there's almost like this calming feeling of like knowing there's really nothing else you can do. You're kind of just waiting to hear back from schools. And so I think that you kind of have to take into perspective what you've done up until this point, how far you've come, and instead of thinking about, what is going to happen, just be like, I'm happy with how far I've gone. I've accomplished a lot. If you've done your application already and you're waiting to hear back from schools you've interviewed at, you should feel pretty good. If you've gotten interviews, you should feel really good. At this point in the cycle, really all you can do is just relax, fill your time with things that you enjoy. Do activities. If you're working, just go to your work. If you're in classes, keep focusing on other aspects of your life. Once you realize that there's nothing else you can do here, there's really not a lot of point in sitting on it and stressing yourself out. I'm currently having a blast in the application process. I love the extra free time. I love not having to study or asking for letters of rec, getting clinical experience, having to work on like all the stuff for your application. I really like not having to do any of it. And so think about the relaxing side of it versus the stressful side of it. That's my advice for coping with the stress. So next up we have best advice for undergrad freshmen. Hello, I'm currently a freshman at a university. I'm worried about my path as a pre-med student. Currently majoring in psychology and taking my first year STEM classes as well as my other core classes. I wanted to hear from others. Steps for applying to med school. I got into a really big school with 50,000 students and I can't really contact my advisors so much. Any advice would be appreciated. Cool. So, again, Reddit's an awesome place for pre-med advice. I'm really glad that this person posted. Going into your first year of undergrad and doing all your STEM prereqs, it's pretty daunting. I did a lot of like my gen ed classes before I did any STEM classes, and it wasn't until I started taking STEM classes that I really realized, okay, I need to really develop my study habits. I need to become a way better studier. My first bio class in college, I was like, geez, this is nothing compared to what I've done so far. So definitely my advice for an undergrad freshman is start developing those good study habits, because you're going to thank yourself once you take harder classes. Also realize that, the classes are scary because you haven't taken the material yet. So when you're going into your first bio class, your first chem class, and you're like, oh, I don't know if I'm smart enough to do this, just remember you're not expected to know all this information because you haven't taken the class yet. It's definitely a little bit of a culture shock going into STEM. Besides that, if you're a freshman and you're already posting in pre-med forums, you're probably off to a pretty good start. That means you're being pretty proactive. I would just start, working on the application early. While you're doing your STEM classes, really focus on what is going to make this application stand out compared to the other applicants in the cycle. Maybe start looking at where you're gonna get your volunteering experience, where you're gonna start doing your clinical experience, and a lot of those resume builders, so that once you're taking your harder classes, you're not, focusing on, oh man, I'm getting the grades, but I don't really have anything else to put on my application. Freshman year is a really good time to start doing all these things, so that when you apply, you can say that you've been involved in this club or this activity since you were a freshman, rather than 6 months before the cycle started. That's my advice for undergrad freshmen, is just start being proactive. You have so much time to really make a good application, and by developing some good habits early, you can really set yourself up for success in the application cycle. Okay, the next Reddit question is an MCAT preparation question. It says, hello everyone, I'm going to start studying for my MCAT next month. I was curious about what is considered high/low yield for every subject. I'm going to be studying with the TPR book set and mixing it with other online video sources. Okay, so they're going to be doing the Princeton Review and other video sources like Khan Academy. How do you guys manage it? I actually have an MCAT studying video personally. There's like a million on YouTube. I made one of my own, just kind of what I thought I would do differently. But this seems like they're asking, should I have a well understanding of everything I come across in the review content? And that's actually where I got stuck when I was studying for the MCAT. Was I spent a lot of time on content review. I spent probably like 3 months reading like Kaplan books and reading other sources, and it was kind of a waste of time because the content review books are great, but to expect yourself to remember every detail and every topic in these books, it's a little bit unrealistic. And a lot of the value I got from studying was when I kind of just hurried up and got to practice questions, because you're going to be better at remembering things you got wrong versus reading something and kind of just hoping you remember it later. Doing practice questions was probably the best thing I did, and I remember most of it from that. So when it says, should I have a well understanding of everything I come across in the review content? Yeah, you should be able to look at the review content and be like, oh yeah, like I kind of remember this topic. But don't get so fixated on it that you waste all this time doing content review, and then by the time you're doing practice exams, it's too late, and you realize that a lot of what you read on the content review isn't even showing up on the exam, and it's really more about that, that test taking ability, doing the practice questions, your stamina. I would read through them. Definitely read through review books at least once, but don't get stuck on it. Like kind of just remember, take note of certain things. If there's a topic you really don't understand whatsoever, look into it a little bit more. But I would focus more on doing like the Khan Academy practice questions, and just other practice questions from other sources like UWorld and AMC. Okay, this next question is, who should edit my essays first? So I've asked a few people to look over my essays and they've all agreed. I've just been a bit conflicted about who should see my first draft and any subsequent drafts afterwards. How can I get the most help without losing my personal voice or making this any worse? So I actually kind of ran across this when I was doing my essays. I applied pretty broadly, so I had a lot of essays to do. And at first I was pretty nervous about writing these, and so I kind of have the same feeling about who I was going to ask to look at it, and the same thing kind of goes with your personal statement as well. And then, I realized it was a lot better to just kind of write a draft regardless of how bad I thought it was, and then just have multiple people look at it. I think I had maybe a coworker look at it. My roommate looked at my essays. He's an English major, so that was pretty helpful. And my girlfriend looked at them, and they were just all different perspectives. And rather than doing some sort of hierarchy of editing, like having this person and then this person, then this person, I kind of would just send the one draft to a couple different people. And so instead of doing this hierarchy of editing, I would kind of just send the one draft to multiple people. And then if there were consistencies across what they thought of the draft, that's kind of what I took into account. So if they all said it was redundant, then I would kind of go back and maybe take out some, information that I'm just kind of fluffing. Or if they thought I wasn't answering the prompt, directly, or if I wasn't answering it to its fullest, then I would go back and add more detail. And that's kind of more important than just trying to do this hierarchy and spending a whole lot of time on one essay when you probably have a lot to do. If you have a personal statement and you probably want to kind of get through it, or especially your secondaries, if you apply to a lot of schools, you have a lot of secondaries to do, and that takes a lot of time. It took me all of the month of July to get all my secondaries done. Definitely don't spend so much time editing that you're going to miss deadlines or anything, because chances are your essay's fine, and a lot of the times we're just neurotic about them. I eventually got to the point where I kind of just felt comfortable writing my essays and submitting them, and obviously, I mean, it worked out just fine because I got a lot of interviews and acceptances. But I definitely would, rather than doing a hierarchy and rather than who should edit my essay first, I would just send it out. It doesn't matter who. Send it out to your significant other, your parents, your friends, coworkers, professors if they've got time. If you guys are on that level. But I wouldn't spend so much time, worry about who's going to look at it rather than just getting multiple eyes on your essays. Especially if writing's not your strong suit. I know a lot of pre-meds, we like science because we don't like to write. We'd rather just kind of read things and answer questions and whatever. I personally don't like writing essays, and doing a personal statement and even my secondaries was a little bit just kind of tedious to me. But yeah, that's how I feel about that. And then the last question for this video is, when do you plan on quitting your gap year job? All I've been thinking about is how many months I have until I can quit. I just started this job this year. My PI is someone I don't want to burn a bridge with, so I can't quit right away. I'm thinking about 3 to 4 months before med school starts. How about y'all? Okay, so I'm kind of in this boat where I'm working a gap year job. Now, I don't think it's a crappy job. This guy seems like he doesn't necessarily like his job, but it really depends on you. I'm personally working my job now. It's in oncology. I really, really like it. And it's kind of advantageous to me because I know one of the first things you go over in first year is oncology, hematology. And so it's kind of just advantageous to me to stay in my job. And, in my gap year, even though I know I'm starting med school next year, I want to keep working around doctors because I want that level of motivation to stay. So for me personally, I don't really plan on quitting my job. This guy says 3 to 4 months. I'll probably quit maybe like a month or two with enough time to kind of settle into a new place, move if I have to, and just get mentally prepared. It depends on you. If you're holding an acceptance right now, if you don't like your job, quit. If getting clinical experience doesn't mean a lot to you, maybe you're scribing and you really hate it, but you're going to med school next year and you already know, maybe work a different job that pays more, maybe, or don't work a job. I don't know your financial situation, but that one's pretty subjective. When we all go to med school, we're not necessarily gonna have an income anyway, or at least most of us will not have an income. And so rather than get fixated on trying to save as much money as you can before med school, if you already know you're going to take out loans anyway, saving up between now and then, unless you have a crazy, good job that pays a lot of money, it's not going to make a huge difference in terms of debt if you're taking out loans. And so, it's really subjective. If you like your job, stay. If you enjoy going to work, stay. If you really hate your job and you're holding acceptance, I guess there's really no point. Why keep a job you hate? You should just maybe find a job you actually like or just enjoy the downtime. That's it for this video of pre-med questions on Reddit. If you like this video, let me know. I'm thinking about starting to do it just because I've been pretty active on the pre-med forums, and a lot of the questions they ask on here, I imagine other pre-meds are going to have them, or they're going to come across similar situations. And even if you haven't come across some of these situations, it's kind of good to get yourself thinking about it. So let me know what you think. But until then, I will see you guys next time.